What's up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping back by my channel. Let's skip the small talk and head while we're here. Today's video is going to be a review for 7 Days in June by the lovely author Tia Williams, and I'm really excited to talk about this book because it was a different pacing of some of the books that I have been reading throughout this year, and it's also one of those books that came super recommended. So, you know, one thing about me, I'm always going to try to keep it authentic. So even my review style for this book is going to be a little bit different than my previous review, but I'm still going to get into all of the facts. So when I opened up this book, it was a little bit different in the pacing that I am usually accustomed to. However, when I did introduce the book, because I was going to be reading it earlier this year, I did read the prologue, and the prologue started off on this pacing where it was like, what the hell is going on? What's he even getting into? Which was a natural thing that geared me into the book. But once we actually got into the book, it kind of changed. But I'm gonna get into that in a second. I kind of want to start us off with a little of my general impressions. So to kind of piggy off that conversation around me getting adjusted to the book, in full honesty, my first general impression is it did take me a little while to get into the book or get adjusted into it. This is a true romance novel. I know what you're thinking, Jasmine, don't you read romance books? Yeah, sometimes, but we're not even gonna go into that. I will start off with the general pacing of the book. In the beginning is a little bit slower. Tia Williams explores like this metaphorical way of writing sometimes. So you'll notice in her writing, not only is it really detailed and creative, detailed ways in building up a backstory of a character to making sure that you are literally feeling like you're present in the room. She uses a lot of metaphors. So if you read it, and when I read it, kind of like skimming through like the second time, I picked up on a lot of that stuff that might have gotten lost, because if I'm being completely honest, it took me a minute to get past the first couple of chapters. I would start it, and then I have to I would either, it wouldn't hold my attention, I was getting really bored, I felt I was missing a lot of details, and that's like the first couple of chapters where essentially it's all background story. Not so much dialogue, but a lot of details around the background of the story, and a lot of narration, not in first person. So it felt a little 6 degrees separated from the main character. I wasn't really able to kind of like, okay, I feel you. It felt like I was watching someone else tell me the story of her, and I just wasn't connecting. Now, while I'm saying that the background story and the details, it didn't really keep me connected in the beginning, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that I know sometimes my attention span, I operate sometimes on a microwave model, right? So I like to go to the microwave, pop that bad boy open, and put whatever I want to eat in there, press the 30-second button a couple of times, and hope that my meal will be ready in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Tia was like, baby, there's a pot roast in the fridge that I've been marinating for 24 hours. Go ahead and take it out that fridge. Yeah. Put it in that slow cooker. Put it on for about 8 to 10 hours. Your full work day. Right? And once you take it off that slow cooker, Tia's like, yeah, you're going to get this development. You're going to get this character foreshadowing. You're going to get these metaphors that I threw in here. You're going to get this setting. I need you to see what we're doing. I need you to understand the context of this. But I enjoyed it once we got over that hatch of I need to be calm for the development of it all. Additionally, one of the other things that I really enjoyed with this book is there wasn't your typical one flawed person or one toxic person. Honestly, a lot of romance novels or a lot of books that are centered around romance and love, there's usually one individual that is very toxic, like clearly the bad guy. But sometimes when you have a clearly bad guy person and they're a good lover, you know, women just jump onto that. Y'all know how I'm talking about. I'm always gonna find a way to bring ethic into this. I'm not gonna do it today. Sorry. I feel like a lot of the times when there's a clearly toxic individual that is just happen to be a good lover, a good, you know, pleasing you sexually, like women like run to that. But the thing about it is, this book, you're exploring two individuals who are not necessarily toxic, but flawed. And I love that it was highlighted in like these people who have flaws and these people who know each other past the flaws, and you know, they're navigating through time, they're navigating through restraint, they're navigating through all these things that's occurring in their current life, to see if it's even worth spinning the block. Now, as we transition into the themes, y'all know I love a good theme, and I love picking out the themes. Like, what is this book talking about? The one that starts off is love is complicated. I don't even have to go really into that, because I think that as individuals, we all experience that in different aspects, whether it is, you know, platonic love, I'm talking about your friendships, your familial love from family, your romantic love. Like, love is complicated. But aside from that, this book kind of explores this small aspect of time, being 7 days in June. And we're talking about 7 days from the year, I think 2004, versus 7 days in the year 2019, which is the present day in this book, right? So these individuals, the main characters, are exploring whatever it is that they had for 7 days, 7 impactful, long days, and simultaneously trying to face it head on, like, what it is that we had. Was this love? Can time heal wounds? It's all of that. One of my favorite things that came up in the book that was so unexpected, I was not expecting this one to come up, but was generational curses or generational trauma, and that aspect of like family and their outlook on love for our life. And I think that Tia navigated and explored that and brought that to life in a fantastic way. Yeah, and I'll get into that a little bit later with some of the irony that came out in the book without really, you know, giving it too much away. But that was one of my favorite ones. Another one, there was a lot of comparison and insecurity, but that comes up in that complication of talking about love and exploring love with your partner, living with regret, being stubborn, never feeling you're enough, living but not feeling like you are actually having a life, fear of the unknown, journey to healing, exploring addiction. Yeah, there were so many good things that came. It was an aspect too, which was like family and communication. So now let's get into some of the characters that were really impressionable within the book. So we had Eva Mercy, aka Genevieve. Eva Mercy is a 30-something-year-old woman. She's a mother of one. She's a writer. She struggles with a disability or a health issue that is one of those invisible disabilities that you can't see, but she is experiencing so much turmoil within her being and her physical body. She has written about 14 books, with her leading erotica series called Cursed. But she also feels really lonely. She sticks to a daily routine. Her life is essentially one big old safety net. Genevieve is the younger version of Eva. We meet her when she's about 17 years old. She has experienced a lot of moving in her life, a lot of transitional periods, not really having time to adjust in these transitional periods because her and her mom will just be moving from place to place. She has a strained relationship with her mom, but you know, Genevieve struggles with her ability to fit in, finding comfort in Shane Hall, who is equally kind of an outsider that Genevieve meets on the school campus. Yeah, and they find comfort in each other. Then we have Eva's mother, Lizette. Lizette is a Creole bred from Louisiana. Why did I say it like that? She is very matter of fact. I feel like they described her as this, you know, glamorous woman, if I'm not mistaken. But her mom, or Lizette, is very much my way. Just makes sense. Don't question me. Don't ask me nothing. This is what I'm doing. As sometimes most parents may lead with. Next we have Shane. He's 30-something years old. I don't remember the exact ages of these folks. But he's 30-something years old. People will describe him as a mysterious person. But my favorite thing that happened, because I told y'all in the video that they love describing brothers as this mysterious person. But Tia, she beat me to that punch. Because in earlier chapters when Shane was being introduced, he kind of called it like, you know, if you were to ask somebody, they will call me mysterious because they don't know me. And I make that like a priority for myself. I know I am a messed up problematic individual, and I rather live my life off the grid where nobody has access to me than to be in the limelight and people knowing that I'm this problematic person. And the reason why he doesn't want to be in the limelight is because he's a best-selling author as well. He has published, I don't remember how many books, but he's just really a renowned author. He is flawed. He is acknowledgeable about this, about being flawed. He is a recovering person that had an addiction. I believe that his addiction was to alcohol, but he, as we experience him in the book, has been sober for X amount of time, spends his current days when he's not off the grid moving from like state to state to work in underserved, high-risk schools to mentor and teach to children who have like delinquent behaviors, or who just like their environment plays a huge role in like their own growth and development. So shout out to Shane. My favorite character in this entire book, hold on a second, because wait for the name. Audrey Zora Toni Mercy Moore. First of her name, giver of reeds. Period, baby. That child, first of all, she's about 12. She is the daughter of Eva, the voice of reason throughout the book. She is reading and holding accountable all these adults around her, and it's no surprise the baby girl wants to be a therapist when she grows up. And I think I heavily related to her because it's like there are times when you're kind of in the thick of adult problems, or you know, as you're being a young person and you're kind of like the therapist in your home or the problem solver in your home. And I was just like, that's hella relatable. Little Mama is a star, and a lot of y'all need to be in her chair. Bloop. Anyway, some supporting characters who had a kind of a reoccurring role. I don't have all of them, but some who were pretty important to like the plot and everything. I'm gonna start with Eva's fan base. They're the fandom for her book Cursed. And I'm just gonna describe a couple of adjectives that come to my mind, but invasive, silly, messy. But they love her dearly. They support her. I mean, obviously if she's a 14-time bestseller, like they're ready to support her. So I would say that yeah, they held Shorty down, but they also are quite problematic. We have Ty. He appears when they talk about a little bit of Shane's reflective moments. But remember I said that Shane works in these underserved communities or in their schools. He mentors and teaches the children, but Ty is like Shane's favorite of all of them in his current location in Rhode Island. And just that dynamic, and Shane pouring into this child and kind of like always embracing him in this non-judgmental presence, and just always speaking life into this kid and encouraging him and being like the brother, the father, the uncle, the best friend, whatever you want to call him. It was just so nice to see that dynamic as well, because you know that Shane grows up in this space of being like the outsider, and I don't know, they didn't really explore Shane's background, but I would imagine he really didn't have that. So yeah, I loved when he was on my my text. And lastly, we have Cece Sinclair. She is the best friend of Eva, notorious editor. She's a social queen for the Black Literati, which is basically the Black Literature Alliance. But yeah, she comes in clutch as she needs to, as always, and Eva trusts her with her life. The last thing I want to mention before I exit is the irony that appeared in the book. So sometimes when we explore reading, there's always, or there could be, one of those elements of literature which is irony. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, but the aspect of Eva's book being called Cursed, and there's some other elements that I said, kind of like generational curses or generational trauma that has occurred. I just loved and appreciated that juxtaposition of that just being implemented, kind of like showing the interconnectedness of different factors and elements that play a role in our lives later on. I'm saying our, but I'm really generalizing it to Eva. Like, I loved how Tia just included that. So give Tia her things. That was probably one of my favorite elements from the book, aside from like little Audrey Zora Toni Mercy Moore the first, Guys, before I end, lastly, trigger warning. There are communication or talks around drug abuse and addiction, alcoholism, self-harm, sexual assault, and child neglect that appear sporadically throughout the book. So just throwing that out there. That's it, guys. I know this was a little bit different than my last recap video. However, I also talked a little bit before about 7 Days in June. I just don't want to give away too much. And if I'm honest, as I mentioned, the first few chapters are just backstory building up. There really wasn't a lot of dialogue for me to pull from there, because it was really just honestly setting up the scene of Eva with her fans, Eva exploring like what's she doing with her book. Does she want to write another book? Eva as a mother, Genevieve with the mother when she was like in the past, Shane and what he's doing, and then we finally get to the book literary event at the Brooklyn Museum, and that's kind of where it takes up. So that's about chapter 4 or 5. So just want to put it out there that it does take a little bit to pick up, but aside from that, once it picked up, the story was really great. So shout out to Tia Williams. Let me know if you get the book. Thanks for watching.